Separated from much of the world for more than 50 years, the island nation of Cuba has turned itself into one of the most mysterious places on Earth. No cash transactions, no toilets, and not even internet access. Many people who have visited Cuba have been genuinely shocked. Don't take your eyes off the screen. This video about 15 bans and crazy realities in Cuba will give you the closest look at what is actually happening in the country. Number 15, unfamiliar with the internet. If you travel to Cuba, you won't be able to make proper use of your smartphone or computer, and communication with the outside world may be interrupted almost immediately because the internet there is extremely poor. Cuba's internet system is one of the most tightly controlled in the world. Internet development in Cuba has been stagnant since its introduction in the 1990s due to a lack of funding, strict government restrictions, the U.S. embargoes, and high service costs. Before 2018, most Cubans had little to no access to the internet. By January 2018, there were nearly 500 public locations offering high-speed Wi-Fi access. However, home internet and mobile internet services were still considered luxuries for ordinary citizens. Cuba is one of the countries with the worst internet infrastructure in the world. Not only is the network infrastructure poor, but Cubans also have to pay very high internet access fees, with most connections being made through public Wi-Fi networks at a cost of around $2 per hour. However, because so many people connect to the same Wi-Fi network, browsing speeds are extremely slow. To access the internet, Cubans must also spend a significant amount of money on smartphones. Even when they have both a phone and an internet connection, they still cannot use many of their favorite applications because of information control policies. App marketplaces such as Apple Store and Google Play also do not allow Cuban citizens to download many applications. This helps explain why, despite having a population of more than 11 million people, fewer than 0.1% of Cubans have access to the internet. Number 14, using ration coupons to buy goods. Cuba is truly an underdeveloped country, and its people do not necessarily enjoy the happy life that is often portrayed to the outside world. Even an individual's shopping activities are closely controlled. In 2019, the Cuban government announced purchase limits on chicken, eggs, rice, beans, soap, and other essential goods. The food rationing program was introduced by the Cuban government after the 1959 revolution, and astonishingly, Cuba was still using this system for its citizens as late as 2024. Even today, Cuba continues to operate a ration coupon system that allows citizens to collect rice, milk, and bread from state-run stores every month. In addition, Cubans can use ration coupons while paying a small additional amount of money to purchase goods at prices lower than those found in regular markets. Each household is only allowed to buy according to its officially assigned quota and may not exceed the prescribed limit. Foreigners are not issued ration coupons and can only purchase goods at markets, supermarkets, or shopping centers. Number 13, Coca-Cola is banned. Coca-Cola has long been loved by Americans, and beginning in the early 1900s, the soft drink gradually became a global phenomenon. However, even today, there are still two places where you cannot easily buy Coca-Cola: Cuba and North Korea. In the past, Coca-Cola opened its first bottling plant in Cuba in 1906, but production was forced to stop in 1962 because of the trade embargo, shortly after Fidel Castro took power. Today, you can still find stores selling Coca-Cola imported from Mexico, but at roughly double the normal price. While finding a bottle of drinking water can be almost as difficult as finding Coca-Cola, rum is widely available in stores throughout the cities. Number 12, don't criticize Fidel. Remember this basic rule of etiquette. When visiting Cuba, do not start controversial political jokes or discussions. Cuba is not particularly tolerant of unrestricted freedom of speech, and criticism of the government is not welcomed. As a foreign tourist, you should avoid attacking or insulting Fidel Castro during ordinary conversations. Doing so could even land you in jail. Fidel Castro was an enormously influential figure in Cuba. He led the country from the victory of the revolution in 1959 until he stepped down from power in 2008. During that period, he implemented many distinctive policies and established a political and economic system based on communist principles. He remains a highly controversial figure, praised by some and criticized by others depending on their viewpoints. However, criticizing Fidel Castro in Cuba is generally not permitted because he and his government imposed restrictions on freedom of speech and political freedom. In some cases, speaking out against him may be considered a violation of the law or may lead to undesirable consequences. Number 11, free healthcare. It may sound unbelievable, but in a country that is still relatively poor and faces many economic challenges like Cuba, healthcare services for ordinary citizens are provided with remarkable care and attention. According to the World Health Organization, WHO, Cuba has a highly developed medical system, and its healthcare professionals have successfully treated many serious illnesses that some other countries still struggle to manage. A notable example came in 2015, when the WHO recognized Cuba as the first country in the world to eliminate mother-to-child transmission of HIV. Doctors in Cuba earn salaries that are approximately 40 times higher than the basic wage of ordinary citizens. In return, the population receives free medical treatment and even home-based healthcare services. As a result, Cuba has one of the highest physician-to-population ratios in the world, with approximately 8.4 doctors for every 1,000 people. By comparison, the figure is around 2.6 in the United States and 4.1 in Italy. Many foreigners travel to Cuba seeking medical treatment in the hope of saving or improving their lives, and the results they receive often exceed their expectations. Number 10, taking photos of police officers and military personnel is prohibited. In Cuba, taking photographs of military personnel, police officers, or airport staff without permission is prohibited. Such photographs may be viewed as an invasion of privacy or as exposing personal information that could affect the safety of the individuals involved and their families. However, the issue goes beyond privacy concerns. In a sensitive country like Cuba, such actions could also cause you to be suspected of espionage and subjected to lengthy and unpleasant questioning. In reality, the ban on photographing security forces was introduced to prevent the disclosure of information related to military or police strategies, infrastructure, and equipment. If such information becomes public, it could potentially affect national security. Therefore, before raising your camera, you should carefully observe your surroundings to avoid getting into unnecessary trouble. Number 9, giving underwear instead of a tip. It may sound hard to believe, but in Cuba, many service workers highly appreciate small gifts from customers, in addition to tips, even if those gifts happen to be underwear. Tipping has never been as deeply ingrained in Cuban consumer culture as it is in many other countries. However, because economic conditions remain challenging, people working in the service industry often welcome additional support to supplement their income. There is no fixed rule regarding the amount of a tip in Cuba. It usually depends on the quality of the service provided and the customer's level of satisfaction. Some people choose to leave cash, while others add the tip to their bill. Nevertheless, many workers are even happier when they receive a practical gift along with the money. If you ever visit Cuba, you may consider bringing a few small items in your luggage to give to people you meet. Hotel employees and tour guides often greatly appreciate items such as shampoo, fishing gear, underwear, eyeglasses, school supplies, or children's toys in addition to monetary tips. Of course, rather than handing such items over in front of a crowd, it is generally better to package them as a small gift and present them discreetly. Number 8. Be careful when exchanging money. Pay close attention to this if you are planning a trip to Cuba, as it could save you from losing a significant amount of money. The official currency used by local residents is the Cuban peso. In addition, there was another type of currency that was once widely used for tourists and transactions involving foreign visitors. If you need to exchange US dollars into currency used in Cuba, you should do so only at banks or official exchange offices such as Cadeca, Casa de Cambio. On the streets, many people may offer attractive exchange rates, but you should remain extremely cautious and always carefully count and verify the money you receive to avoid being scammed. Even children who appear completely innocent may sometimes be involved in such schemes. Quite a few tourists have become victims without ever realizing it. A safer solution is to bring a payment card. However, you should keep in mind that cards issued by US banks generally cannot be used in Cuba. Meanwhile, Visa and MasterCard cards issued by many other countries are usually accepted, although they often incur an additional transaction fee of around 11%. Number 7. Unique convertible taxis. Once you set foot in Cuba, you will easily spot vintage cars cruising through the streets or parked along the roadsides, particularly in the historic district of Old Havana and around the seaside hotels. The sight of yellow vehicles, shaped somewhat like giant helmets, puffing smoke as they move along, has become a familiar symbol of the city. These taxis are known as maquinas and cocos. They are often brightly painted classic vehicles, including many convertible models. The coco, in particular, is a small yellow taxi with only 2 passenger seats in the rear and a single seat for the driver. These vehicles mainly serve short-distance trips within the city at prices that are affordable for local residents. At the same time, they have become one of Havana's most popular tourist attractions, with many visitors seeking them out for photographs and social media check-ins. For classic car enthusiasts, the streets of Havana are nothing less than a living open-air museum. For Cubans, however, using these vehicles is simply a necessity because they have very few alternatives. Similar to North Korea, Cuba has been subject to a U.S. embargo since 1959. The country does not have a highly developed automobile industry and lacks major domestic car manufacturers. Importing new vehicles is extremely difficult, forcing residents to continue using cars that have been on the road for decades. Number 6. Cubans love beans. You may have heard a great deal about Cuban cuisine and its blend of indigenous traditions, Spanish immigrant influences, and African cultural heritage. However, those are mostly the dishes served in restaurants. For most Cubans, beans are the true staple food, as common in their daily lives as rice is for Chinese people. In Cuban cuisine, beans are often prepared in a famous dish called moros y cristianos, also known as Cuban black beans and rice. It is one of the country's most traditional dishes and appears regularly on the dining tables of local families. The name moros y cristianos translates from Spanish as Moors and Christians. The dish consists of black beans, known as frijoles negros, combined with rice and cooked with seasonings such as onions, garlic, pepper, oregano, cayenne, and various aromatic herbs. It is commonly served alongside pork or chicken, as well as fried plantains or toasted bread. Not only is moros y cristianos a daily staple, but it is also frequently served during family gatherings and major celebrations. Black beans have long been an essential part of Cuban culinary culture while providing an important source of protein and nutrition for the population. Number 5. 15 years old is considered womanhood. If you meet a Cuban girl who is around 15 or 16 years old, referring to her as a woman may sometimes be considered more respectful than calling her a girl. Cuba observes a traditional ceremony known as the quinceañera, which is celebrated on a young woman's 15th birthday. This custom is common throughout many Latin American countries and marks the transition from adolescence into adulthood. During a quinceañera celebration, the birthday girl typically wears an elegant formal gown and receives elaborate makeup, creating an atmosphere similar to a miniature wedding. The event may be held at home or at a special venue with family members and friends in attendance. In addition to the celebration itself, the young woman receives gifts and heartfelt wishes from relatives and loved ones. The occasion is viewed as a way for the community to express care, affection, and support as she reaches this important milestone in her life. After turning 15, many girls are considered to have entered adulthood. They may attend adult social gatherings, wear makeup, walk in high heels, pay greater attention to their appearance, and participate in activities that were previously discouraged or considered inappropriate for younger teenagers. Number 4. The Kingdom of Cigars. Talking about Cuba without mentioning cigars would be a major omission. The cigar-making industry has existed in Cuba for hundreds of years and has preserved much of its traditional heritage. Thanks to generations of expertise and favorable natural conditions, Cuban cigars have become famous worldwide and remain highly sought after by cigar enthusiasts. Cuba is known for producing and processing some of the finest tobacco leaves in the world. The combination of fertile soil, ideal climate, and extensive agricultural experience has created raw materials with a distinctive flavor that is difficult to match anywhere else. In addition, most Cuban cigars are still hand-rolled using traditional methods. Completing a single cigar requires considerable time, skill, and attention to detail. Cuban cigar artisans continue to follow classic production techniques to maintain the highest possible standards of quality. Generally, travelers are allowed to carry up to 20 Cuban cigars duty-free without needing documentation proving their origin. This limit may increase to 50 cigars if the products are stored in sealed packaging and accompanied by a valid receipt. If the permitted quantity is exceeded, the traveler may be required to pay import duties. Naturally, each country has its own regulations regarding the number of cigars that may be brought into its territory. Number 3, avoid blowing your nose in public. Even if you have a cold or are suffering from sinus problems, you should avoid blowing your nose in public while in Cuba. Many local people consider the act somewhat impolite. In Cuban culture, personal hygiene and showing respect for those around you are highly valued. As a result, blowing your nose in a crowded public setting is often viewed as lacking refinement and proper etiquette. If someone does this in front of a group of people, it may make others feel uncomfortable or cause them to react negatively. In some cases, that person may even be perceived as lacking good hygiene habits and respect for the community. For this reason, Cubans generally pay close attention to social customs related to personal cleanliness. This attitude is similar to the way many people view spitting in public, a behavior that is often regarded as uncivilized. Number 2, always maintain an optimistic spirit. Cubans are famous for their strong sense of self-respect and personal dignity. Their friendliness is something that almost everyone who visits the country can immediately feel. To bring joy into everyday life, local people frequently organize colorful festivals rich in cultural traditions, helping to promote the image of their country to the rest of the world. One of the most notable attractions is the Parisian Show, a performance that was originally introduced to Cuba by Americans. Thanks to its captivating beauty and uniquely vibrant atmosphere, Cubans have preserved, developed, and maintained the show to this day. The Parisian Cabaret recreates various chapters of the history of the communities that once lived on the island while celebrating the joy and vitality of the Cuban people. Many visitors compare the scale and grandeur of the production to shows in Las Vegas. Nevertheless, the Parisian Cabaret possesses its own distinctive charm that is difficult to find anywhere else. Cubans are also renowned for their striking beauty, shaped by the blending of many different ethnic backgrounds over generations. This rich heritage makes the energetic dances featured in these performances even more captivating. Number 1, ballet is a source of national pride. If baseball is considered the most beloved sport in Cuba, then ballet is undoubtedly one of the nation's greatest sources of pride. People often say that Russian ballet is renowned for its exceptional technique, French ballet for its emotional sophistication, while Cuban ballet represents a harmonious blend of both qualities. In Cuban artistic life, performance styles such as salsa, mambo, and various traditional dances all occupy important places. However, ballet remains the art form that inspires the greatest sense of national pride among the people. Cuba possesses a long and accomplished ballet tradition. Throughout the 20th century, the country produced numerous talented dancers, as well as prestigious ballet theaters and academies. One of the most important figures in Cuban ballet history is Alicia Alonso. She founded the Cuban National Ballet in the 1940s and played a pivotal role in bringing Cuban ballet to international recognition. Her achievements have inspired generations of dancers who followed in her footsteps. Today, ballet is regarded as an essential part of Cuba's artistic and cultural heritage. The Cuban people take tremendous pride in their dancers and their accomplishments. Therefore, if you ever visit Cuba, it is wise to avoid making negative remarks about ballet, as such comments could easily offend local residents. And that concludes our exploration of 15 prohibitions and fascinating facts that make the island nation of Cuba truly unique. Although the country has many strict regulations, it continues to attract visitors with its distinctive cultural identity and its richly flavored cuisine. The world is still filled with countless fascinating discoveries waiting to be made. So stay with us as we continue exploring remarkable stories from every corner of the planet. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts in the comments section below. We look forward to seeing you again in future videos. Thank you for taking the time to watch and join us on this journey.